Columbia University, I mean, this is a major story, and I'll talk about this tomorrow. Tomorrow we're doing a show on how would I improve the Constitution. That's pretty arrogant of me. But how I would improve the Constitution, and this is one of the ways I would improve the Constitution. Once the government gets involved in education, at any level, once it starts funding education, once it starts funding professors to do research at education institutions, once the government is involved in our universities, funding scholarships, giving tuition, whatever it happens to be, whatever means happens to be, it's going to lead to disaster. It's going to lead to disaster. I think ultimately, you can probably trace back some of the woke craziness, the DEI nuttiness, to government grants granted to particular faculty members to study particular things that generated kind of an energy behind this, and it became popular to study this and get PhDs in this and do research on this because the government was funding it. But of course, the reverse also works. So the United States government is pissed off at American universities, as we all should be. I'm not sure the government should be, but we all should be. For basically the blatant anti-Semitism being expressed on university campuses by the left. But more than that, the faculty's adoption of these incredibly insane positions around woke, around DEI, around oppressor-oppressed, intersectionality, from which the anti-Semitism has been born, if you will, or has been resurrected. And this administration is pissed off at that. And it's not surprising. And a lot of course, the donors to this administration were the people who kind of started cutting off donations to particular universities. But this administration, this kind of administration, doesn't just get pissed off. They go and do something about it. And this is where it gets very scary. Okay, so the United States General Service Administration, GSA, alongside the Department of Education and the Department of Health and Human Services, have sent a letter to Columbia University administration notifying them of what's going to be required if they're going to start getting their federal funding again. So why the Health and Human Services? Because they were funding a lot of science, biology, health-related research at Columbia University. And they've cut all that science, they've cut all that funding off. So no research funding is going to the university, including STEM. So they're saying, okay, here's what you have to do if you want to get your funding back. Funding that in an ideal capitalist society wouldn't exist. So here's what they want. One, enforce existing disciplinary policies. Okay. Who gets to interpret whether they're being enforced or not? Okay, put that to side. Primacy of the president in disciplinary matters. So now the government is telling Columbia University how to determine disciplinary matters and make the president primary. I don't see how that's any of the government's business. The government wants Columbia to enforce time, place, and manner rules. Well, so now they're not only saying enforce existing disciplinary policy, but have new disciplinary policies. They want the university to have a mask ban if the masks are being used to, hide the identity of, I guess, protesters, students. Again, government interfering in a private institution's discipline policies. Deliver plan to hold all students groups accountable. Okay. Here's where it gets really dicey, I think. Formalize, adopt, and promulgate a definition of anti-Semitism. Really? And who should approve this definition? And why is it needed? I mean, it'd be good to have if they're going to accuse certain students of anti-Semitism, if anti-Semitism is banned speech on campus, which is appropriate, right? It's a private campus. Well, but is it? It's getting government money. It's part of the confusion, right? Empower internal law enforcement. Deliver a plan for comprehensive admission reform. So again, the government is now dictate admissions. Admissions. In addition to that, they are requiring the university to put on probation. Certain departments. So immediately place the Middle Eastern studies, South Asian studies, and African studies departments under an academic receivership. Nobody knows what that means, what academic receivership is, for a minimum of 5 years. Now, what does that mean? So why these departments? I mean, the Middle East department is a horrible department. It's one of the most anti-Israel, it was basically made famous by Edward Said, who is one of the founders of the DEI. One of the founders of the post-colonialism movement. And it's just terrible. But it's, within academic circles, one of the most highly regarded academic departments. They publish a huge amount. I mean, the whole field is corrupt. But should the government have an opinion about that? No, these departments you have are corrupt. Now, this all gets very murky because the government's giving the money. It gives the money in the form of loans to students, scholarships to students. It gives the university money in the terms of grants for research. Some of those probably just horrible and should immediately be stopped in the humanities, but some of them STEM, which I also think ultimately should be stopped, but is not, I don't think is a high priority, primarily because, the government is the funder of STEM today in America. We should phase it out. We should get rid of it. But that is the reality. Why single out Columbia, not other universities? Because Columbia is being managed and saying things this government doesn't like. What happens when, I don't know, President, I don't know, pick a Democratic, what happens when President AOC, in 10 years, decides to put on probation the political science departments of certain universities because they're teaching what she considers racist, dogmatic, horrific, pro-slavery, I don't know, whatever, anti-1619 propaganda. What happens when the government starts dictating what is being taught at universities? What happens when somebody in the government decides that this guy who went on Rogan, this idiot who went on Rogan, should get a teaching position to teach us about a reevaluation of Hitler? Do we really want the government, even if we agree in this particular case, stepping into Columbia and saying, these departments, they need to be in receivership. We'll only release them from receivership, whatever that means. Nobody knows exactly. When we like the content they're teaching. Who is the we that likes the content they're teaching? Isn't this abridging the free speech of the university? What happened to the First Amendment? Is the fact that you get government money, does that mean you don't have a First Amendment right for your own speech? This is, again, I hope Colombia sues. I hope this goes to courts. I hope we get some kind of resolution here. But really, the only resolution is to get the government out of education. The only real resolution is to stop funding the universities. Now, it's a good time to remind you that Colombia is probably sitting on a massive endowment of tens of billions of dollars. Why can't they use that instead of the government funding? I mean, it would be amazing, truly amazing, even if it's done in the name of the left, for Colombia to tell the government to go shove it. And they might. And they might. But this is the kind of issues, the kind of problems, the kind of dilemmas you get when you allow government funding of education. What should we teach? What the government approves, what parents want, what the professors want, what the administration want, And again, I don't like anything that's taught in Middle Eastern studies at Columbia. I assume I won't like anything in Southern Asian African studies. I don't even know what they teach in Southern Asian studies. So this is India, Thailand, Southern Asia. I don't know what's offensive there. Pakistan, Afghanistan, I don't know. African studies, I get. Middle East studies, I kind of get. African studies, I assume, is just 16, 19. But I'm sure I don't like what they teach. Okay? And I don't like the fact that my taxpayer money is going to make that possible. True. So stop funding those departments, stop funding the university. I don't know what you do about STEM. Maybe you stop STEM funding for all universities. You just do the NIH. But the NIH is the one granting these. I mean, this is where the scientists are. Where are the scientists? They're at the universities. So yes, ultimately, that's what you want to do. You want to stop all government funding of all research. But that's going to be a while before that happens. And America can recover from it. We can do it now, but I'm not sure we recover. By the way, a lot of other countries right now, France, UK, a few other countries, actually actively engaged in poaching American scientists and saying, hey, if you come here, you can do research on anything you want. Funding is secure. You won't have to worry. It would be interesting if we had a brain drain going out of America. Usually the brain drains are coming into America. It would be interesting if we had a brain drain going out of America. All right, that is a story to watch. We will see what Columbia University does. It has ramifications for academic life and for the university and for free speech that we're going to feel for, I think, a very long time. So it's an important story that's going to be super interesting to see actually what happens.